There we go. Good evening. It is a little bit late on a Sunday, but I had made a commitment to be here live before the weekend finish up. And so here I am. And I do have another chapter from $5 in the World, Stories and Sayings of my dad. And this one is one of my favorite stories for some reason. It comes from about 1976. We were kids, and dad had this idea of something to do while we were on Christmas vacation. And I just want to talk about how it seemed like a good idea at the time, seemed like it was going to go off the rails. And then fate took a hand. And I just want to go ahead and, without too much uh, reveal, just go ahead and read this to you. It is getting late, so I just want to read it. I'd love to get your feedback and your take on it. What do you think of this story? As always, I am so glad that you take the time to watch and listen. And when you give me some sense of how it's going, if I'm doing all right, if you like the stories, if they're helpful, really makes my job easier to get this book finished. And I'm getting closer every week. So let me pop open this chapter. It's called Life as a Circus. We spent our Christmas vacations at Fort Myers Beach, Florida. That's an island in the Gulf of Mexico. Back in the 50s, our dad found a campground there and he made it one of his getaway spots. It was called the Red Coconut Trailer Park. He arranged to leave a small mobile home there year round. It was a small one bedroom, one bathroom trailer, about 350 square feet. My brother Chuck and I fought over the mattress space and pillows on the hide of bed in the living room. The value of the trailer wasn't the trailer, but its proximity to the glorious white sands beach there. We went there every year of my life through my college years. I even convinced my wife Kathy that we should honeymoon there. A couple of typos I'm fixing real quick. Sorry. During the winter months, Florida is swamped with people from the Midwest and Canada. Like us, lots of these snowbirds have their go to spots. This resulted in our having several friends from around the country based on our parents' love of Fort Myers Beach. One such friendship was with our neighbors, the Browns. They hailed from Ohio. Bob was a brash retired firefighter. He loved the Ohio State Buckeyes the way our dad loved the Michigan State Spartans. Bob's real notoriety for us was his command of the curse words in the English language. He swore with even more reckless abandon than our dad did. He and his wife were great neighbors. One day, Bob suggested that Dad should take us north a bit to Venice, Florida, and enjoy the spectacular Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. Venice was their winter quarters, and during the holidays, they put the finishing touches on the performances before setting out on tour. Bob had heard that these shows were incredible. Dad, always one for a new experience, and who doesn't love a circus, decided to make the journey. Dad asked all the right questions. How do you get tickets? How far is it? Is there parking? Bob assured him that it was no problem to get tickets. It was just the next town up the coast, easy to get there. So Dad told us about the idea to go see a circus. We proved to be less enthusiastic than one might expect. Our time on the beach was limited by the tyranny of the calendar, and we really did not like the idea of missing a day of surf, sun, and sand. Dad had convinced himself that it would be awesome, so he set to work persuading us of the same. He managed to get enough buy in, even from Mom, and we set out the next day. The morning of the excursion was the kind of day the Chamber of Commerce promised visitors. It was perfect weather. The weather actually put a damper on our enthusiasm for the adventure. Doubt started to set in. What if it isn't any good? What if we don't get tickets? What if this is the last nice day of the vacation? Dad, undaunted, got us rolling north. It became clear that the distance was farther and the traffic was heavier than Bob had indicated. This made the doubts a bit more audible from the back seat. Even Mom was beginning to wonder if we should terminate the quest. The next red flag was the parking situation. The parking lot was large and looked to be quite full of cars. At this point, our mood was bordering on mutinous. The situation did not improve when Dad asked the parking lot attendant about where he should go to buy tickets. He responded by saying, "You don't already have tickets? Good luck." We unleashed our pent up scorn and launched accusations of incompetence. Dad remained resolute. He parked the car. He got out, squared his shoulders, and headed in the direction of the ticket booths. We stewed in our car, certain that Dad was merely prolonging the inevitable failure of this excursion. As we sat there reinforcing all of the worst case scenarios that came to mind and watching for Dad to get back, we spotted him. I will never forget the scene. It was still sunny and getting warmer. The field we parked in was dusty and the air was hazy, and the air had a hazy look to it. Dad did not look like a guy returning from a defeat. He looked pretty satisfied with himself. We could see that he was holding something in his right hand. As he got closer, we recognized the thing in his hand were four fanned out tickets. He acted like everything had came together just as he had planned it. He confirmed that he did in fact have tickets, and that we should get a move on if we still wanted to see the circus. This outcome, wildly unexpected, made everything more exciting. We insisted that he tell us what happened. He knew how fickle we could be, so he put off his story until we got settled in and saw for ourselves how well it had worked out for us. After all, there was a good chance the tickets were for lousy seats. As it turned out, we needn't have worried about this. We went into the big top, and our clown of an usher, he was literally a clown, began to walk us to our seats. We were guided down the center aisle and to a row high enough to see all three rings of action, but still smell the animals. Perfect seats. The seats we had were a combination of 50-yard line seats at a football game and courtside seats at a basketball game. Whenever Dad put together a moment that blew us away, our mom would look at him with a mixture of love and admiration. And Dad lived to see that look on her face. This was one of those times. The year was 1976, the US bicentennial. The whole circus was decked out in red, white, and blue. All of the star performers were in one place and in prime form. The star of the show, the lion tamer, and his famous acrobat wife were in the center ring for much of the circus. The lion tamer was Gunther Garble Williams. He had made a name for himself in Europe before joining the Ringling Brothers Company. He looked the part, and whenever he was out there, Dad had a rival for Mom's attention. Everything was dazzling. Halfway through, they invite kids from the crowd to come down to the show area and be a part of the clown parade. Chuck and I were among those picked to participate. We got into the circus wagon and made a few laps around the big top with our new clown friends. We didn't just see the circus. For a moment, we joined the circus. The day proved to be a smashing success and the source of lifetime memories. We kept the giant souvenir program around the house for years afterwards. We finally convinced Dad to tell us how he managed to secure any tickets at all, let alone the prime tickets we got. He admitted that the walk to the ticket booth felt a little bit like walking to the gallows, but he knew that if he didn't ask, he definitely wouldn't get any, so he resolved to see what he could make happen. He even ignored the sold out sign in the window. He spoke to the lady in the ticket booth and explained his predicament. While she expressed sympathy for his plight and the danger he was in, she reiterated that the tickets were sold out for the day. It was then that he noticed a stack of tickets to the side of her counter. Always wanted to exhaust every possibility, Dad asked about those tickets. She explained that they were for a bus tour group. Turns out they weren't going to make the show after all. Dad asked if he could buy four of them. We don't know what the terms of this transaction were. We do know that he got the tickets because Dad did not give up on his goal, and by God's grace, the tickets were for the best seats in the big top at the greatest show on earth. I selected this story because it remains a powerful memory for me and because it highlights so many of Dad's qualities that made him so fun to be with and so inspirational as well. The attributes that I think of from this story include his belief that resolve comes before planning. Once he believed that the circus could be a great day for us, he set things in motion to make it happen. Nurture the confidence that obstacles don't mean quit, they mean adaptations are needed. Be resourceful. Ask for help. Ask questions. Things don't have to be the way they are. Ignore the critics if you believe you are right. Persevere. Encourage the people around you. Remind them of the goal whenever they start to get discouraged. Take a chance to experience something special and do it with people you care about. Do all of these things and trust that God's will is benevolent. Remember that if one idea doesn't go the way you wanted, there is always a chance to try something else. Looking back on this, I'm convinced that if we hadn't gotten tickets, Dad would have been able to find some other way to make the day a good day. I'm glad we didn't know how far it was and that the show was sold out. We would not have set out for it. Dad always taught us to start out with the goal in mind and then work towards it. Believe it to see it. Dad lived for these kinds of gestures with our benefit in mind. He loved to experience life with the people he loved. Go to the show, find the tickets. The quest is the story. All right. That is it. That is a chapter, Life is a Circus. I'd love to know what you think of it. If there are any changes, if there are any questions, if there's anything else I should add, let me know in the comments, and I look forward to reading those. That's it for tonight. I'll be back next week. Thanks again. Goodbye for now.